Jake had always felt a deep connection to nature. As a child, he spent countless hours exploring the forests near his home, his imagination ignited by the rustling leaves and the songs of birds. Now, as a young adult, he sought solace in the mountains, where the air was crisp and clean, and the world felt alive with possibility. His latest adventure was a solo hiking trip in the breathtaking Rocky Mountains, a place renowned for its towering peaks and vibrant wildlife. As Jake set off on the winding trail, he couldn't help but marvel at the stunning scenery surrounding him. Majestic pines reached for the sky, their needles glistening in the sunlight, while wild flowers painted the ground in bursts of color. The sound of a nearby stream provided a soothing backdrop to his journey, further enhancing his sense of peace. Each step brought him deeper into the wilderness, filling his heart with exhilaration. With every twist and turn of the rugged trail, Jake felt more alive than ever. He relished the challenge of navigating rocky outcrops and steep inclines, his excitement growing as he ascended higher into the mountains. The panoramic views from each vantage point left him breathless. Endless expanses of untouched beauty stretched before him. Yet it was not just the landscape that drew him in. It was the thrill of discovery that awaited around every bend. Jake often imagined encountering wildlife, elusive deer grazing in meadows or soaring eagles circling overhead. Little did he know that today would hold an encounter far more extraordinary than he could have ever anticipated. A moment that would challenge his courage and compassion in ways he never expected. As he ventured further along the trail, Jake would soon find himself at a crossroads that would change everything. As Jake continued his hike, the serene sounds of nature enveloped him. The gentle rustling of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, and the soothing flow of water. Suddenly, those peaceful sounds were pierced by a series of distressed growls echoing from a nearby cliffside. The noise sent a shiver down his spine. It was a sound filled with fear and urgency that he could not ignore. Curiosity ignited within him, compelling Jake to move closer to the source of the commotion. He carefully navigated the rocky terrain, his heart pounding in rhythm with each step. As he approached, the growls transformed into frantic whines accompanied by the rustle of brush, as something struggled against the confines of its predicament. Jake's instincts kicked in. Something was wrong, and he needed to find out what. Peering over the edge of the steep cliff, Jake's breath caught in his throat. Below him, a young bear was trapped on a narrow ledge, its dark fur matted and bristled with panic. The cub seemed terrified, its wide eyes darting around as it searched for an escape route that didn't exist. Jake could see how precariously it teetered on the edge, one misstep away from a dangerous fall. A rush of empathy washed over him. He knew he had to act quickly. The sight of this vulnerable creature struggling against its fate stirred something deep within him, a desire to help and protect. Jake felt a mixture of fear and determination rise within him as he formulated a plan. Time was of the essence. He couldn't allow this young bear to face such peril alone. Deep down, he understood this moment would define not just his day, but perhaps even his life. Standing at the edge of the cliff, Jake's heart raced as he stared down at the frightened bear. A whirlwind of emotions surged within him: compassion, fear, and an overwhelming sense of urgency. He could see the cub's desperation, its tiny body trembling as it clung to the ledge. Every instinct in his being urged him to help, yet he was acutely aware of the risks involved. Jake took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. What if he slipped and fell? What if the bear panicked and lunged at him in fear? The wilderness was unpredictable, and while he had experience hiking and climbing, this situation was unlike anything he had faced before. He closed his eyes for a moment, envisioning the bear's plight. The helplessness in its eyes mirrored a vulnerability that tugged at his heartstring. But as he opened his eyes and looked again at the young bear, a wave of determination washed over him. This creature needed him. It was a living being trapped in a precarious situation, and Jake couldn't turn away. His love for wildlife fueled his resolve. He believed that humans had a responsibility to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. He began to mentally weigh his options. He could call for help, but who knew how long it would take for anyone to arrive? Time was not on their side. The thought of waiting idly while the bear remained in danger filled him with dread. With every passing second, the urgency of the situation grew more pronounced. Finally, Jake made up his mind. He would attempt the rescue himself. He felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with fear as he gathered his gear. It would be risky, but sometimes life called for bold actions. With one last glance at the trembling cub below, he steeled himself for what lay ahead, driven by an unwavering instinct to intervene and make a difference. With a deep breath, Jake began his descent toward the bear, carefully choosing his footholds on the rocky cliffside. Each movement was deliberate, as he focused on maintaining his balance while keeping his eyes fixed on the frightened cub. The bear's wide, fearful gaze locked onto him, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. As he drew closer, Jake noticed the bear's body language, its ears pinned back and its eyes darting nervously. He understood that every instinct in the cub was screaming to flee. However, he also knew that panic could lead to a disastrous fall. Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out a small snack bar, breaking off a piece in an attempt to show the bear he meant no harm. He spoke softly, his voice calm and reassuring. "Hey there, little one. It's okay. I'm here to help you." The bear hesitated, its growls softening into tentative whimpers as it studied Jake's movements. He took another cautious step forward and lowered himself to his knees, appearing smaller and less threatening. "You're going to be all right," he continued, maintaining eye contact to convey a sense of safety. "I promise I won't hurt you." Slowly the cub began to inch closer, drawn in by Jake's soothing tone and gentle demeanor. The distance between them shrank as curiosity began to replace fear. Jake's heart swelled with hope as he saw the tension in the bear's body start to ease. In that moment, an emotional connection blossomed between them, a shared understanding that transcended words. Jake knew he had to keep this fragile bond alive. With each reassuring word and slow movement, he aimed to establish trust. This young creature was not just a wild animal, it was a vulnerable being seeking comfort in a time of crisis. As their eyes met, Jake felt a profound sense of purpose wash over him, knowing that they were both on this journey together, one of rescue and connection in the heart of the wilderness. With the bear now calmed and responsive, Jake knew it was time to put his plan into action. He carefully assessed the situation, scanning the cliffside for a safe spot to anchor his climbing gear. The rocky surface presented challenges, with loose stones and uneven ledges complicating his descent. But determination surged within him. He had committed to this rescue, and he would see it through. Jake pulled out a sturdy rope from his backpack, tying one end securely around a large boulder that jutted out from the cliff face. He tested the knot, ensuring that it would hold under pressure before preparing himself for the descent. His heart raced as he double-checked his harness and equipment, mentally rehearsing each step while glancing back at the young bear. "Just hold on a little longer," he whispered, hoping the cub could sense his resolve. As he began to lower himself down the cliff, Jake focused on his grip and footing, every muscle in his body engaged. The descent was treacherous. He navigated around protruding rocks while keeping an eye on the bear below. Each shift in weight sent small gravel tumbling down, but Jake pushed through, fueled by adrenaline and the need to help. Halfway down, he encountered a particularly difficult section, a vertical drop where he had to swing out slightly to avoid a precarious ledge. His heart pounded in his chest as he maneuvered his body, sweat trickling down his brow. He gritted his teeth and reminded himself of why he was doing this. The bear needed him. Finally, Jake reached a stable ledge just above the cub. With careful movements, he secured himself and prepared to extend the rope toward the bear. "You're almost there," he called softly, reassuring both himself and the frightened creature. As he glanced back up at the steep climb behind him, Jake felt a surge of confidence. He was committed to this mission, and nothing would deter him from saving this young life. With his heart racing and adrenaline coursing through his veins, Jake steadied himself on the ledge just above the young bear. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The responsibility of ensuring both their safety loomed large. Carefully, he reached for the rope, tying a secure loop to create a makeshift harness that would fit the bear. He spoke softly, trying to keep the cub calm as he approached. "It's okay, little buddy. I'm going to help you." Jake's hands trembled slightly as he worked to slip the harness over the bear's body. The cub flinched at first but seemed to sense Jake's intentions were good. Once secured, Jake took a deep breath, preparing for what would be a heart-pounding descent. He knew that balancing safety for both himself and the bear would be crucial. One wrong move could spell disaster. As he began to lower the bear down the cliff, Jake felt the tension in the rope and instinctively tightened his grip. The bear dangled slightly, its small frame suspended over the edge. Jake's pulse quickened. He had to navigate carefully, ensuring that he didn't pull too hard or let the line slip. Each step downward was fraught with peril. He had to lean back against the cliff, while maintaining control of both his own descent and that of the frightened cub. The rocky surface beneath him felt unstable, and he had to shift his weight to avoid loose stones that threatened to give way. With every inch he descended, he could feel sweat trickling down his back, a testament to both fear and determination. The ground below seemed to rush toward them, but Jake focused on keeping steady and calm. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached a stable ledge where Jake could safely set the bear down. Breathing heavily, he released his grip on the rope and looked into the cub's eyes, both of them shaken yet alive with relief. They had made it down together, but their journey was far from over. As Jake carefully set the bear down on solid ground, he felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over him. The young cub, still trembling from the ordeal, paused for a moment, its wide eyes scanning the surroundings, as if trying to comprehend its newfound freedom. Jake crouched low, giving the bear space and allowing it to acclimate. He watched intently, his heart racing as he wondered how it would react now that it was no longer in danger. For a brief moment, the bear hesitated, unsure whether to flee or stay. But then something remarkable happened. The cub took a cautious step closer to Jake, its body language shifting from fear to curiosity. Jake held his breath, knowing that any sudden movement could startle it again. Slowly the bear approached him, its nose twitching as it caught the scent of his presence. Then, in a gesture that surprised Jake and filled him with warmth, the bear leaned in and gently nudged him with its snout. It was a soft nuzzle, an instinctive expression of gratitude and trust. Jake's heart swelled at this unexpected display of affection. "You're safe now," he whispered, reaching out slowly to stroke the bear's fur. It felt warm and surprisingly comforting beneath his touch. The cub seemed to revel in this connection, letting out a soft huff before playfully swatting at a nearby twig on the ground. In that moment, they shared a bond forged from adversity, a mutual understanding of the rescue that had just taken place. The playful gesture reminded Jake that despite their differences, they were both sentient beings capable of feeling fear and relief. This unexpected gratitude transformed the tense atmosphere into one filled with joy and wonder. As Jake knelt there with the bear at his side, he realized that their encounter was not just about survival, it was about connection and compassion in the wild, a reminder of the beauty found in helping others, no matter how different they might be. As Jake sat on the ground, still basking in the warmth of the bear's gratitude, his moment of relief was interrupted by the sound of voices approaching. A group of local hikers, having heard about the incident from another passerby, emerged from the trail, their eyes wide with astonishment. When they spotted Jake and the bear together, their expressions shifted from curiosity to sheer disbelief. "Did you really just rescue that bear?" one hiker exclaimed, stepping forward with a mix of admiration and concern. The group gathered around, their attention fully on Jake and the young cub. They marveled at how he had managed to navigate the treacherous cliff and safely bring the bear down. "That's incredible," another hiker added, shaking his head in disbelief. Jake felt a wave of humility wash over him as he explained what had happened. He shared how he had heard the bear's distress calls and felt compelled to act. The hikers listened intently, nodding in appreciation for his bravery. They were not just impressed by his physical feat, but also moved by his deep compassion for wildlife. As the buzz of excitement grew, someone in the group pulled out their phone to call wildlife officials. It wasn't long before a couple of park rangers arrived, equipped with tranquilizers and safety gear. They assessed the situation quickly, relieved to see that the bear appeared unharmed and healthy. "Thanks to you," one ranger said to Jake with a smile. "This little one is going to be just fine." The rangers were equally amazed by Jake's actions. They commended him for his quick thinking and bravery in a potentially dangerous situation. As they prepared to check on the bear further, Jake felt a sense of camaraderie with both the rangers and the hikers surrounding him. Together they celebrated not only the bear's rescue, but also a shared understanding of their responsibility toward nature, a reminder that compassion can spark hope in even the most challenging circumstances. In the days following the dramatic rescue, Jake found himself thrust into an unexpected spotlight. News of his heroic act spread rapidly through local media and social networks, with headlines proclaiming local hero rescues bear from cliff. Photographs of the bear nuzzling Jake were shared widely, capturing the hearts of people far beyond the hiking community.
Suddenly, Jake became a symbol of compassion and courage, inspiring countless discussions about human-wildlife interaction. As interviews poured in, Jake spoke about the importance of respecting wildlife and understanding their habitats. He emphasized that while encounters like his could be rare, they highlighted the pressing need for awareness about how human activities impact animals in the wild. His message resonated deeply with audiences, prompting many to reflect on their own interactions with nature. Conservation organizations reached out to Jake, inviting him to participate in workshops and community events aimed at educating the public about wildlife preservation. He relished these opportunities, sharing his story and encouraging others to take an active role in protecting the environment. "We're all stewards of this land," he often said during talks, hoping to instill a sense of responsibility in those who listen. Jake's adventure sparked a broader conversation about wildlife safety and coexistence. Local authorities began discussing ways to improve signage in hiking areas, educating visitors on how to respond when encountering wild animals. The bear's rescue became a rallying point for community initiatives focused on conservation efforts and responsible hiking practices. Through it all, Jake remained humble, often reflecting on how one spontaneous decision to help had rippled outward to inspire change. He understood that while he had acted instinctively that day on the cliffside, it was now a call to action for everyone, to appreciate the beauty of wildlife and ensure its protection for future generations. In an age where nature often felt distant from urban life, Jake's story reminded people of their intrinsic connection to the wild and the profound impact they could have when they chose to advocate for it. As the weeks turned into months, Jake found himself drawn back to the mountains, returning to the very cliff where he had rescued the young bear. Each visit was filled with anticipation and a sense of purpose. He wanted to see how the bear was faring, hoping that their brief encounter had made a lasting difference in its life. On one particular sunny afternoon, Jake hiked along the familiar trail, his heart pounding with excitement. As he approached the cliffside, he paused to take in the breathtaking scenery. The vibrant greens of the forest and the gentle sounds of nature seemed even more alive than before. Then, as if summoned by his presence, a familiar figure emerged from the underbrush. There was the bear, now a bit larger and more confident, exploring its surroundings with playful curiosity. Jake couldn't help but smile as he watched the cub climb over rocks and paw at fallen branches. The young bear's demeanor radiated newfound strength and freedom, a testament to its resilience. In that moment, Jake felt an overwhelming connection to this creature, a bond forged not just from their extraordinary encounter, but from a shared journey of survival and hope. As he stood there quietly, the bear caught sight of him. For a heartbeat they locked eyes, and Jake felt as though time had stopped. The bear paused, sniffing the air before taking a tentative step toward him. It was a simple gesture, yet it spoke volumes about their unique relation. Jake raised his hand slowly in greeting, feeling an unspoken understanding pass between them. This moment encapsulated everything Jake had come to realize about compassion and connection in nature. He understood that their bond was more than just a fleeting rescue. It was an enduring reminder of how acts of kindness could ripple through lives, both human and animal alike. With renewed inspiration, Jake returned home that day with a heart full of hope. He knew he would continue to advocate for wildlife protection and conservation efforts, sharing his story in hopes that others might realize their own capacity for compassion and connection with the natural world. In witnessing the bear thrive in its habitat, Jake understood that true rescue often extends beyond one moment. It is about nurturing relationships that celebrate life and foster understanding in a shared environment.